Okay, we had the new parts come through from the factory. We'll get them on the car ahead of FP1.
Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2018 career mode, episode number 118 today for the Belgian Grand Prix in Season 6. If you guys did miss the previous one then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. But heading to this episode then, we finally have that ultimate engine power upgrade that we've been waiting on for 3 episodes time, and obviously we've also got that additive or the fuel consumption upgrade that we did, so basically a double whammy, but almost like a quadruple whammy in a way, because kind of the ultimate is almost worth 3 minors, so kind of 4 minor upgrades in a way. And so you can see on the performance chart there, we've made heads and strides now towards Renault. You can see near enough, we're maybe 1 minor upgrade or major upgrade maybe away from matching Renault finally on paper on the performance chart. Although, of course, last episode, the Red Bull in the hands of Verstappen looked very, very strong in clean air. So I think our car is pretty much thereabouts to the point where we now can take the fight to Renault. And because they've been so poor with, albeit, they've got very unlucky in a way, but also at the same time, they've not done a good job themselves in terms of qualifying here and there. And then also reliability-wise not being good for them. They need to work on that, especially in their car. We've been able to catch them up, and we're actually ahead of them in the championship in both senses for the drivers and the constructors. So actually this just means the second half of the season, if you will, because this of course would be after the real-life summer break, just means that it's going to be a very exciting time for us at Red Bull Honda. But we get through Q1 very easily, of course, a formality pretty much there, and we go into Q2. The car feeling pretty hooked up throughout the entire lap, and in a way I could almost feel like there was that extra horsepower in the back of the car. I don't know, just kind of, it's probably just in my mind, but I almost felt like every single corner on the exit, the acceleration, the oomph of the engine was just almost there in a way, and the car definitely felt very good around Belgium. It's always a good circuit for me to come to in the F1 game, always enjoyable in the race as well in terms of the racing you get on Sunday. But across the line then in Q2, only 1 run needed, very good stuff there, efficient in qualifying so far, and we get through into Q3 along with Verstappen. Although you can see there, Renault did come back at us there. I think I actually lost a bit of pace from Q1 to Q2 in terms of the actual lap time, although the feeling was pretty much the same, if not better actually. So that was a little bit odd. So Renault do pick up the pace. So even though we're talking all about taking the fight to them, they are technically still on paper meant to be ahead of us in the performance chart. So let's not let's not get too cocky, I think is the word really, and let's make sure we can actually do the job and beat them here. So we're in the top 10 shootout. The first run wasn't too amazing because you saw in the first corner I went wide, and then generally wasn't just all around well knit together lap time. So we come across the line, it's only going to be P4, which I'm a little bit disappointed in. So we start a new lap then, and you can see into turn 1 immediately. We're a little bit slower into the corner, but on the exit we're so much faster out there that we already gained a couple of tenths there. As we move down to P6, as HOCKENHEIM goes faster than us, we get a bit of traffic in the middle of the lap in the form of McLaren here, although we do use it for a bit of slipstream there, so that might have helped us a tad, but at the same time didn't help us on the entry to Pouhon there. But still up on our time plenty. A little bit of oversteer, had to go opposite lock on that left-hander there, so that wasn't ideal and a little bit scary, to be honest. I nearly binned that flying lap. But across the line, despite gaining so much time there, like a ludicrous amount of time gained, we're only P3, and eventually it goes down to P5. Verstappen, though, comes out of nowhere with a great lap time for pole position. Both Renault's P2 and P3, so I was left a little bit surprised, to be honest, because I gained so much time. That second lap felt really good, and it was only good enough for P3 at the time, and then down to P5 is where some people went faster. I was shocked to see Hamilton go faster than me in the Mercedes car, although in the engine chart, Mercedes actually, quite funny enough, are back into the top of the engine chart. We've talked about them having a bit of a fall since Season 2, and they've not really been that great ever since Season 2. They're actually the best engine on the grid once again, just like it kind of is in real life. They're kind of back there again in the career here in Season 6. That might have helped Hamilton power through to P5 there. And in terms of the difference in time from me to Verstappen, I was just a bit taken aback really. So Verstappen, he dominated the Hungarian Grand Prix. He's done a great job in the top 10 here. So at the moment, he's really having a good resurgence, almost like he did in real life. At the back end of the season, he came strong versus Ricciardo in real life. Versus me, he's doing the same thing almost in a way. So I need to be wary of that. But in the race, hopefully we can move forward and try and use our new engine power and flex that muscle in the back of our car to try and overtake some cars and take the fight to not only Renault, but also our teammate Verstappen maybe this time compared to Hungary. So let's go to the grid then and see how Sunday shapes up.
Who doesn't love the Belgian Grand Prix? It's the race, of course, that gave maiden pole positions to the Jordan and Force India teams, with Rubens Barrichello and Giancarlo Fisichella respectively. Jordan, of course, would then go on to better that here in 1998 with their first ever victory. And you can guarantee that something special will always happen at Spa-Francorchamps. but what that something is today is anybody's guess. Spa-Francorchamps then, a historic 19-corner circuit with a lap distance of 4.35 miles. There's over 100 metres of elevation change here, and with long stretches of the lap spent flat out, a good top speed will be vital for success. Anthony Davidson is alongside me in the commentary box to take you through all the action today. Now, it's a closely matched field here in Spa, Ant, so where do you think we're going to see somebody make a difference?
If they're as close as we're expecting them to be, especially through the midfield, then it tends to cause understeer, which in turn causes front tyre degradation. Now, too much damage there could force an early pit stop and put you at a slight disadvantage, so the drivers will want to be careful not to be too aggressive early on in the Grand Prix.
Let's have a look then at the starting grid ahead of the Belgian Grand Prix for Season 6 of F1 2018 Career Mode. It was a good day for my teammate Max Verstappen once again on pole position, alongside him Daniel Ricciardo on the front row of the grid. Then third place, the second man in the Renault, Carlos Sainz, alongside Lewis Hamilton. Then myself in P5 with Nico Hülkenberg in P6. Van Dorn, Alonso, Ocon and Hartley round out the top 10, with Pierre Gasly and Sergio Perez 11th and 12th. Both Ferraris on 13th, 14th, with Charles Leclerc in 15th place, Romain Grosjean on P16 with his teammate 17th place, with Bottas on 18th, with both Williams rounding out the bottom row for the Belgian Grand Prix. Alright, so here we are on the grid in P5 and we have some work to do, but we might have a very interesting race on our hands because it's going to end with some rain there, heavy rain in fact, so we might have 3 different periods of this race, on slick tyres to the intermediates to the full wet. So we're going to change this to a one-stop with the soft tyres. We've done that in the past, but honestly the rain, it looks like it might just come as we cross over to that pit stop window, so we might have to, maybe all of us, eke out the super soft tyres and try and make it to the intermediate periods. But here we go then. So 5 red lights for the Belgian Grand Prix here in Spa, 22 laps ahead of us. The lights are out and we're underway. It's initially okay stop, and then second and third gear really bogging down in the wheel spin. Into turn 1, easy on the brakes for us to stop a lock up there, defending to the inside. Van Dorn tried to make a move on the outside. In fact, he's actually overtaking Hülkenberg, so fair play to the Belgian man. He's actually the home favourite, obviously, so a good getaway for him, and the crowd will be hopefully cheering him on there in P6, but we remain in P5, chasing after Hamilton. At the moment, I think Verstappen's maintained the lead, but he did have to defend a little bit into Rouge, I think, on one of the Renault cars. As now the Renaults go side by side there. I think that is, yep, it's a duo, and it's a little bit of contact actually there for the 2 Renaults, I think. Whoever is on the inside there did definitely make some contact, and enough to slow us down completely. Look how much of a domino effect that was. I'm lucky I didn't break a bit of my front wing there. Definitely tapped the rear end of Hamilton's gearbox there as we try and feed it to the outside, but get hit with a bit of oversteer. And so already the Renaults have caused issues for us in this race, because they've massively held up not only themselves, they've held up Hamilton, they've held up me, and so Verstappen has already got a healthy lead on the minimap as we now go to the inside and make a big dive bomb on Hamilton at the bus stop chicane. We make it work though, up into P4, and now we hopefully try and chase after these 2 Renaults. But look at that in the distance there, you can see Verstappen's already got a very healthy lead in first place compared to second and third, with Carlos Sainz in third place and the man with all the bad luck in the world, Daniel Ricciardo, in second. Meanwhile behind we've got Hamilton really slowing down now, so after I overtook him, he's been overtaken now by Van Dorn, so that might have been just a bit of a fluke result then for Hamilton in qualifying, or maybe the Mercedes engine just isn't that great in race mode. It needs the kind of maxed out fuel maybe for the party mode trick to work out there, so he's struggling and he's gone behind Van Dorn. Meanwhile up ahead we watch this fight once again. The Renaults will go side by side at the end of the Kemmel straight there. More contact made again for the second time now as well. They just really can't keep it clean there, Ricciardo and Sainz there. A little bit of a grudge, I suspect, maybe, as Sainz is trying to get past. Of course, Sainz is the one really in the championship fight, whereas Ricciardo's not really, so I guess maybe Sainz in third place is really getting annoyed at Ricciardo holding him up there, because there might be a thought of team orders that there should be there, because Ricciardo's been has got such bad luck in this season so far that there's no point really him holding up Sainz, because he's the one that can actually do something about the championship fight between myself and Verstappen. Sort of, all got very, very close between Verstappen and Sainz in the Drivers' Championship, but these two are definitely holding each other up quite a fair bit, to the point where I got very close to them actually, but I got a bit too close because I went a bit wide there and actually lose some pace as we move on to lap 3. But once again, these two are neck and neck. Sainz, I think, to the inside, sparks flying there a little bit as more contacts made on the side pod. No, Sainz actually on the left-hand side trying to go around the outside, hasn't worked out for him, and yet again I'm held up right behind the gearbox, and so Van Dorn is also closing up here. So Sainz still hasn't been able to get past him. Very surprised, to be honest, because Sainz has been the faster man all season so far, but Ricciardo, I guess, the grip between his teeth, he's had 2 DNFs in a row, hasn't it been? And so he's probably just, you know, very, very annoyed at this situation, is driving with a lot of anger maybe to stay ahead. But all the meanwhile, this man is just enjoying life. He's enjoying it like he did at the Hungarian Grand Prix. He's in no man's land in a world of his own in first place. Verstappen leading the Grand Prix, dominating the Grand Prix, if you will. But we move on through the Grand Prix, then these two guys still at it as the sun comes down and the overcast clouds come through Belgium as the rain is coming upon us. Like I said, we might all try and stretch this super soft stint to the intermediate period, and so it's getting darker and darker, and these guys are still fighting over P2 here. Carlos Sainz again trying around the outside, which seems pretty futile there, but Ricciardo, I think he's lost a bit of traction there, and Carlos Sainz might be on the inside as they go towards the hill. Perhaps Ricciardo there still maintains P2, but there goes Sainz now. He moved to the outside, has a little look up the hill, doesn't work out there, but he's got DRS now, and once again on the Kemmel straight. Where will he go this time? He'll go to the inside, it looks like there, and maybe this will be finally the one for the Spaniard to overtake him, but Ricciardo comes back, gets the elbows out there, and so as they go through to the next right-hander, though, Carlos Sainz will have the better line, the better position to be on track, and will squeeze out Ricciardo, and he'll be up into P2 of this Grand Prix, but Ricciardo will come back at him immediately on that same lap in the bus stop there to the inside of the next left-hander, and so these two still scrapping away for now what has literally been 5 laps of non-stop AI on AI action there. I think this has been the craziest AI battle I've ever seen, actually, like continuous battling. I don't think I've seen 2 teammates battle this long in a Grand Prix when they're not, you know, involving a player like myself. But now, because these two have been side by side for so long now through the last and first corner, they've slowed each other up so much that we might have a good chance now with Rich Mix going hot lap mode engaged. Overtake mode then as we go up to the Kemmel straight. DRS will be available to us, and so here we go with this slipstream of dreams here as the Renault pulls out on the right. We're going to make it 3 wide, but we're going to shoot past like an absolute Red Bull sponsored rocket ship, and we're up into second place. Yellow flags, in fact, because they make more contact, and Ricciardo, controversially, is back up into P3 after Carlos Sainz had to control the car there, because I looked back in a flash, I couldn't quite tell, but it looked like that Carlos Sainz came off worse because of some significant contact that I think brought out the yellow flags momentarily, in fact. So, yeah, very, very odd situation, although more yellow flags come out later. But as we go on now, later on lap 6, Verstappen is actually only just up the road. He's had major issues with contending with this slippery track. It's very damp now. You can see the rain droplets starting to form on the car as Ricciardo has a go on the outside there, but we are actually catching Verstappen at a rate of knots, so I thought the race lead was miles away from us, but Verstappen's been so slow in these conditions that we caught up, and we're going to come in now. My engineer had not told me to go into inters until literally that moment, so he timed that perfectly there. So Jeff, good work there. Last corner, last minute call to come in for inters. Verstappen stays out, so he was already slow in those conditions anyway, to the point where all 3 of us caught him up that quickly, but now he's going to be even slower now, so we might actually have a very good chance of undercutting and jumping Verstappen for the race lead. So that's going to be pretty damn crazy, but the overtake itself on the Renault is so satisfying there because they're both so slow, and then to squeeze through on the left-hand side, it was such a small gap that Carlos Sainz gave me, especially because I saw those two fighting for so long. It felt so good just to fly past them in one go basically, like that. But we've now got an entirely different phase of the race. Intermediate conditions this is. Very treacherous up the hill, Rouge. We have to lift off there, massively lose the back end. And so I just about survived there. That could have been very nasty. That could have been a DNF right there. Slamming the car into the wall. Thank God I lifted off in time there. But meanwhile, Carlos Sainz and Verstappen both actually stayed out there. So those two struggling on the dry tyres on a wet track, and Carlos Sainz right up the back of Verstappen. So, I don't know, very, very odd. Uncharacteristic, really. Verstappen is really struggling in these conditions where you have to tiptoe around and try and really be on your wits about you, you know, every second of the lap to try and get the power down as early as you can, but also not too early that you spin up the tyres and spin out the car. And so Sainz giving him some pressure. So me and Ricciardo, though, now have a very good chance of jumping our respective teammates here because they're going so slow through all these right-handers. Like, literally, you can tell just by the camera angle. I mean, it's not even deceiving. Like, literally, you can see they're going so much slower. But as we now move back to our POV on the outlap, we've got way more pressing matters at hand. On the right-hand side there, we're over 90% worn on the MGU-H. Now, we've had these problems before. Remember China, round 3 of this season, our MGU-H was overheating, but that only got to about 80%. This has got to over 90, so I suspect maybe it wasn't helped by the fact for 5 laps, I was literally staring at the back of 2 Renaults side by side, spewing off hot exhaust gases. So I guess my MGU-H is just a turbo, it's kind of, no pun intended, but turbocharge overheated itself, basically, to the point where it's in a very dangerous zone now. So I don't even even know if I can get to the end of this Grand Prix. I mean, we're in first place. Let's forget this for a second. We're in first place now. Ricciardo's second, Verstappen's third, Carlos Sainz fourth. But now I've got to somehow survive in first place of this Grand Prix, and I've clearly got issues because I can't even take Rouge in the hill near enough flat there in the intermediate conditions. I'm having to lift off way more than Ricciardo is. Clearly, have to go very defensive to the inside, the end of the Kemmel straight there, and these MGU-H issues, if they don't stop, they're basically going to overheat to my engine to the point where my turbocharger might start to go as well. So I've never had a situation like this. I've never had an MGU-H fail on me in a race. I've had it warned quite a bit, but I don't know what happens when it fails. I don't want to find out, honestly, but at the moment, it's not in my hands. I just got to pray that nothing happens. But at the moment, I'm losing pace here. There's smoke coming out the back of my car. That's not the rain spewing out of the rear tyres. That's actually smoke out my engine here. And so once again this season, I'm facing a very uphill battle to actually get to the end of the Grand Prix here. France, we just about did it with a broken gearbox. Here, though, like I said, I don't know how an MGU-H wears and how it breaks, possibly. I don't know what ever happens, to be honest. I've never even seen it in a video of what happens when MGU-H fails. Verstappen, though, has gone around the outside there. He made a double overtake on Ricciardo and myself as we went defensive on Ricciardo and effectively almost boxed him in with Verstappen. And Verstappen had so much confidence there under brakes, as he would. Obviously, Verstappen's very well known to be good in the wet. They went round the outside and sailed around both of us then and got the move done. So he's back into first place. But now look at this. My MGU-H is on 98, 99% here. This is not good. It's already, oh my god, it's now 100%. I've now got 100% MGU-H. What happens now? My car is so slow that Ricciardo dive bombs me here. My car is clearly very, very slow, but now what happens? Does my turbocharger start to overheat, and is that the thing that's going to DNF us out of the Grand Prix? I just don't know. We're going so slow now that the point where we go through this right-hander now, usually flat in the dry, but we go through there. We're so slow that Ricciardo now is gaining. He's going to make a move on the right-hand side there. It'll be easy pickings for him, and there he goes. Oh, it's gone. Our engine's failed. MGU's failed. We've hit Ricciardo as well. Ricciardo is going to spew off into the wall, it looks like, but that is it. That is us out of the Belgium Grand Prix. My MGU-H has failed. My engine's gone up in smoke. The safety car got called out there. And that is this freeze frame of Ricciardo there. It looks like I was going to punt him into the wall. So I might get a bit under fire for making some contact with him. Although, to be fair, I had no control once my car DNF. This was the point where I lost control. I had no say in the matter there of Ricciardo spinning to the wall. But that is it. That is us out of the Belgium Grand Prix.
So as they climb out of the car, the Red Bull team are ready and waiting to celebrate a thoroughly well-deserved win. And I have to wonder, Anthony Davidson, just what set them apart from the competition here.
Well, keeping their tyre temperatures up in the tricky wet conditions was really important. There's not much grip out there at the best of times, and it's 10 times worse if you're out there on cold tyres. So the way they kept the rubber in its proper operating window was a huge advantage today.
So my teammate Max Verstappen goes on to win the Belgium Grand Prix. It's a 2-3 for Renault. Ricciardo somehow was still in second place, so I guess the game did not count the little spin that I did on Ricciardo, because that wasn't actually even me. That was the computer doing it as I retired, because it does the retirement animation there, so I guess that's only fair, actually, to be honest. So Ricciardo P2, Carlos Sainz P3, so we're still in this championship. We've still got a decent cushion, but now Verstappen is only just behind Carlos Sainz there in the standings, and, you know, one more good race, and he'll overtake Carlos Sainz. It will be a 1-2 in the Drivers' Championship. Constructors, we're still good. So, to be fair, there hasn't been much of an impact on the actual standings-wise in terms of that DNF, but in terms of just the pure shock of it all, it's just crazy. I mean, to be fair, it's our actual first proper DNF for this season, because the gearbox issue we had at France, actually, we still finished the race, obviously. So that was our first DNF. Verstappen's had 2 DNFs so far, so he's had his fair share of bad luck and kind of, you know, annoyance with the Honda power unit. So I guess it was my turn eventually, and we had a few scares, like I said, at China. We could have easily had that same sort of failure, and like I said, in the moment, I think the 2 Renaults ahead of me definitely did not help, you know, the overheating issues I was having in the engine there, clearly. And so we go to the end of the episode then, in a bit of shock, but we're still leading the way, so I can't be too disappointed. But obviously that would have been maybe potentially a win. I don't know, because it was affecting my performance still. So even if I didn't DNF, I probably wouldn't have even been in the points eventually, because my engine was going so slow there. And yeah, so we have probably another penalty coming our way for the Italian Grand Prix, because I have no more fresh MGU-H's to spare, nor do I really have a good internal combustion engine still, because the internal combustion engine got worn quite a fair bit. So we might have some grid penalties for the Italian Grand Prix next episode. We'll have to see about that. But talking about upgrades, I initially looked at maybe another engine upgrade. Couldn't afford the ultimate one there. In the end, though, I actually could afford these two minor upgrades, the minor front downforce and the minor rear downforce. Now, we go to Italy, you know, the very high-speed circuit. You might think that's a bit odd to add more downforce to the car. But now, with added front and rear downforce, balances out from front and rear, this is going to mean we can run lower wings at Italy and feel comfortable. Usually, I always compromise myself because, I don't know, some of you guys might be able to do it, but I do not feel comfortable at Italy running 3.3 or 4.4 wings because usually the car feels so unstable. But now, with the amount of downforce we're adding to this car, I might be able to run that low of wing and get away with it with the Red Bull car. And so we could try and turn this around and perform very well at Italy. We might well have to if we do get faced with grid penalties. But nonetheless, that has been a very exciting Belgian Grand Prix. You can't deny that. So be sure to hit that like button, guys, if you did enjoy it. Let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you know how to do, subscribe for weekly F1 content. I've been over. Hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.